What if I told you there's a country in Europe where some villages have almost no young men left, where women compete to find husbands, and where a single man returning home can receive more than 20 marriage proposals in just a few days? This is not fiction. This is Bosnia and Herzegovina, one of the most complex, divided, and misunderstood countries in Europe. If you think only Eastern European countries face a shortage of men, then you probably haven't heard about Bosnia and Herzegovina yet. Every single year, more than 300,000 men leave the country to work abroad. And among them, tens of thousands never return permanently. Now imagine this. The entire population of the country is only around 3 million people. When such a massive number of working-age men disappear from local communities, especially from rural villages, the imbalance becomes impossible to ignore. In many regions of western and southern Bosnia and Herzegovina, young men have become extremely rare. Some villages are filled almost entirely with women, elderly people, and children. For many women, marriage is no longer only about love. It has become one of the few remaining paths toward economic stability and survival. The situation became so unusual that seasonal, temporary husband services quietly appeared in some agricultural regions. Migrant men would travel into rural villages during busy farming seasons, helping with heavy labor, domestic work, and daily farm operations while also acting as companions or partners for local women. Some of these contracts pay incredibly well. Annual earnings can reach €80,000, more than 4 times the average local income. The most popular workers are booked months or even years in advance. In certain parts of Herzegovina, this system became so normalized that labor agencies even included these services in official agricultural employment categories. One famous case happened in a remote village in western Bosnia. For single mothers between the ages of 30 and 40 jointly published an announcement in local media. They offered free accommodation and a monthly salary to any man willing to stay in the village permanently, help with farm work, and live together with the family. But almost all applications came from abroad. Local men simply did not want to remain in isolated rural areas anymore. Most younger males had already moved to European Union countries for better opportunities. In some villages, the ratio of men to women between the ages of 20 and 40 reportedly dropped to levels as low as 8 men for every 100 women. And because of this imbalance, even men with little education, no house, no car, and unstable jobs could suddenly become highly desirable marriage candidates. One unemployed 28-year-old local man reportedly received 17 separate marriage offers. Eventually, he accepted an offer from a farming family where the bride's side covered every wedding expense, provided a new apartment, a car, and tens of thousands of marks in cash. Another story became famous near Srebrenica. A 31-year-old factory worker returned from Germany to visit his family for only a few days. Within 3 days, 22 different families came to propose marriage. 2 families even argued physically over who would secure the marriage first. The man himself was completely ordinary. No high education. No major income. He even carried debt from working abroad. But after only 1 week, he became engaged. The bride's family paid off all his debts immediately. Their only request was simple. After marriage, he had to quit his job in Germany and stay permanently in the village. Because of the severe shortage of men, international marriages in Bosnia and Herzegovina continued to rise rapidly. Many rural families are now willing to pay visa costs, transportation expenses, and even buy property for foreign husbands if they agree to settle locally. Some women openly admit something shocking. They say having any husband, even a foreigner they barely know, is considered better than having nobody at all. But the demographic crisis has also created darker consequences. In most modern countries, close relative marriage is either socially rejected or legally restricted. Yet in some remote regions of Bosnia and Herzegovina, marriage between relatives has quietly become more common. Why? Because the pool of available partners has become extremely small. Mass male migration, ethnic divisions, religious separation, and isolated rural communities all combined into one dangerous cycle. In some villages, women are left choosing partners only from distant relatives or a tiny circle of people they already know. Reports claim that in certain remote communities, close relative marriages have risen dramatically. This has also increased concern over congenital illnesses and inherited genetic conditions among newborns. The locals understand the risks, but many feel trapped by circumstances they cannot control. And this is only one side of Bosnia and Herzegovina's story. Officially, Bosnia and Herzegovina is located in the Western Balkans of Europe. It borders Serbia, Montenegro, and Croatia. Its capital city, Sarajevo, is known worldwide as the place where World War I began. But what makes Bosnia truly unique is how divided the country still remains. Bosnia and Herzegovina is made up of two highly autonomous entities and a separate district. Each side has its own political structures, police systems, education systems, and media networks. Even emergency systems and administrative services are often not fully connected. In some cases, crossing from one entity into another can feel almost like entering a different country. The nation itself is mainly composed of three ethnic groups: Bosniaks, Serbs, and Croats. Although they lived together for centuries under Yugoslavia, deep divisions still remain after the brutal Bosnian War during the 1990s. Children often study completely different versions of history depending on their ethnicity. The same historical event can be taught in opposite ways. Even the presidency of Bosnia and Herzegovina operates under a rotating leadership system where representatives from different ethnic groups take turns holding power. Mixed marriages between ethnic groups remain relatively rare, especially in rural regions. In many communities, families still strongly discourage interethnic relationships. And all of this traces back to one painful reality: the Balkans have long been called the powder keg of Europe. On June 28, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated in Sarajevo, triggering World War I. Decades later, during the breakup of Yugoslavia, Bosnia became the center of one of Europe's bloodiest conflicts since World War II. The Bosnian War between 1992 and 1995 caused more than 100,000 deaths and displaced millions of people. The Srebrenica massacre became internationally recognized as one of the worst genocides in modern European history. Even today, bullet marks from the war can still be found on buildings across the country. Large areas remain contaminated with landmines. Yet despite all of this tragedy, Bosnia and Herzegovina has managed to maintain peace for decades. Crime rates remain surprisingly low compared to many Western European countries. Cities like Sarajevo are considered relatively safe even late at night. Economically, Bosnia is still developing. Average salaries remain low compared to Western Europe. But many families own inherited property, avoid heavy mortgages, and benefit from nearly free healthcare and education. For ordinary people, life is not luxurious. But after surviving war, destruction, and division, many simply value stability above everything else. Bosnia and Herzegovina remains one of the most complicated countries in Europe. A land shaped by war, migration, ethnic conflict, and survival. A country where beauty and pain exist side by side. And perhaps the strangest part of all, even after everything this nation has suffered, many people still believe its future can become brighter. If you enjoyed this video and want to discover more unbelievable stories from around the world, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment below, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next upload.